Raced for many years Opels until he transferred into Fords this year. And there is Keith Ray. It was 2.24 seconds the last time they put the watch on it. It looks a little less than that now. Kellett also keeping the pressure on our Scottish visitor there, Alan Keith. And just look how quickly that machine is going through Dettles.
In fact, all the first four cars are, in fact, they are within about 4 or 5 seconds of each other. But still, Frank O'Rourke has got the advantage. But Keith Ray, no doubt, is going to use the extra sort of 30-40 horsepower that he has.
And there's Reg Tuttle limping in. That's what we thought was the problem. Front wheel puncture. Still trying to get back to the pits, but he must be at least 2 laps down. What a shame. What a brilliant drive we were seeing from the Dubliner. And he was the one that really could have given O'Rourke a lot of problems.
Yes, that's motor racing. I'm afraid these things happen, and when you're in a leading or a challenging position, or leading position as he was, and suddenly something like that happens, and your race is finished. But Keith Ray, in fact, he's driving. It's more like a rally stage the way he's throwing the Talbot around. With the horsepower he has, of course, he can do that. Rear wheel drive, throws the tail out, and in fact, on a racetrack, I certainly prefer the characteristics of a rear wheel drive car to that of front wheel drive, in spite of the fact that Frank O'Rourke is leading in a front-wheel drive Escort Turbo.
And of course, being production saloons, just as you would drive out of the showroom, they're beginning to get a little bit tired at this stage. Leader having completed 7 laps of this 15-lap race. Brakes were beginning to get a bit overheated. Tyres were beginning to get a bit overheated. And drivers, indeed, were beginning to get a bit overheated in those cockpits. That's Keith Ray you're watching.
Yes, and Gordon Kellett, in fact, has just overtaken Alan Keith in the little Fiesta, so we've now got a change for 3rd and 4th position.
Well, we had the watch, and there's the battle. Yes, there's Gordon Kellett up into 3rd. And we had the watch between 1st and 2nd, and in fact, Frank O'Rourke is opening up this gap. He's not.
Yes, he must have had that
down.
little bit in reserve that we anticipated, so he's responded to the challenge from Keith Ray. But it's going to be interesting now to see can Gordon Kellett, in fact, catch up to Keith Ray, since having got past the little Fiesta, he's been able to pull away substantially, and maybe the Fiesta was holding him up to an extent that he wasn't able to. Oops, the Talbot's blown up. Look at that. Look at that. A major, major blow up.
In the biggest possible way. And
that's going to make the old shackles feel a bit lighter at the end of the day with that one.
I'm afraid Mr. Kenny Colbert is going to be taking an engine out of that car belonging to Keith Ray very shortly. What a shame.
It's the first three-cylinder Talbot I think we've seen here at Kirkistown for a long time, isn't it?
Yes. And Kellett really trying, cocking the rear wheel in the air there under braking. But Keith Ray out of the hunt now completely. And very sad it is too, because in fact he's a very hard-working member of the 500 Club. But now we have Turbos first and second.
Kellett went wide. Kellett went very, very wide coming out of Fisherman's. In fact, so much so that Alan Keith is right back up in his metaphorical gearbox.
So Alan Keith still cheekily keeping the pressure on in the little Fiesta as O'Rourke goes on his winning way. He's well out now. He's about 4 or 5 seconds in the lead. We'll keep the gap. We'll see the second man coming down into the hairpin, and there's the battle for second.
And this is the race really now. This is the race. Everything else seems to have just dissipated away. But Kellett ought to be. He did pull away quite easily from Alan Keith. Then he went wide coming out of Fisherman's, and it's given Keith the momentum again to. He stuck himself right on the boot lid of the Escort.
So the roll plug Turbo plugging the gap for the little Fiesta, who's trying to crawl all over the back of number 2 there, Gordon Kellett from Dublin. On the braking, down from one of the fastest parts of the circuit. Nose dips down here, you throw across the car. Used to do this production saloon car racing myself, thoroughly enjoyed every second of it, but you're really over-driving a car all the time because they were never designed to do this.
Not really, and in fact that's almost the worst thing you can do, since they're not designed for this kind of activity as such, and the tyre factor being the very, very limiting one. Overdriving is going slower. You really want to sit back and try and drive in a very, very controlled, as Jackie Stewart would say, imagine you're going at half the speed you really are, and then you'll probably be doing a better job.
I used to find, John, the problem with this is when you went back out on the road afterwards in the same car, you had to sort of readjust to road manners very quickly indeed.
I would think so, and particularly today with the amount of activity we've seen.
So we're watching the battle for second place between Gordon Kellett, who now has pulled out a little bit from Alan Keith. We just see in the background there the Honda CRX of Portadown man, Timothy Allen.
Yeah, these little CRXs have got a series over in England which has been very successful. They're they're a standard car, but they're very, very competitive, and it's produced some of the most exciting one-make racing that England has seen this season.
So we have now 10 laps completed, and they're all more or less equally distance spaced at the moment. 10 laps of the 15-lap race. Gordon Kellett still trying hard. He was champion up here 2 years ago. And there's the newcomer to the circuit, Alan Keith. Let's hope he'll be back. He's going extremely well. We see in the background now the little Honda, and then behind him the Mazda of another one of our Scottish visitors, Lewis Emsley, who is on his first ever visit to Kirkistown.
This car, I gather, has got quite a famous pedigree. Someone was telling me, I think it might have been you, Alan, that belonged to my team boss.
And there is Kellett coming out. There is that Scottish visitor Alan Keith behind him. And we're looking back down towards the hairpin. We see the little CRX, and there is the Mazda now. We can just see it in the distance coming up towards us. There is that car, very historic motor car indeed. Back in 1981, it won the Spa 24-hour race.
Yes, it's driven by my current boss, I think that's right, Tom Walkinshaw.
That's right. We're looking at the little CRX. There's the Mazda. And Tom Walkinshaw, of course, who manages the Jaguar team that you drive for, John, and is no mean pilot himself.
I think you could say that. In fact, that's probably a gross understatement. I'm very pleased that he doesn't choose to get into the XJR9s these days, because I'm quite sure he would be no less competitive than many of the drivers that he is employing to do the job.
Lovely little side story here, John. Our friend here, Lewis Emsley, we had problems in practice, and when I asked him in the paddock at lunchtime what had happened, he said, you'll never believe it, I ran out of petrol. A Scotsman comes to Ireland and doesn't put enough petrol in the car.
Well, I'm not saying any more about it. My team boss is a Scotsman too, you know, and that was his old car. Say no more.
Oh, problems. Mick Fitzgerald is in the boondocks and well in his 3-litre Capri. Yep. He's stuck well and truly.
Between Colonial 1 and Colonial 2, and he's, again, like many cars that have gone off today, he's gone into the sort of boggy part of the circuit, and getting the car out of there is going to be a problem.
So Frank O'Rourke in the Escort Turbo is so far ahead now that we can't find him. There's the second place man. There's Gordon Kellett, and here's our leader. And what a fabulous drive it is. O'Rourke, a tremendous supporter here of Kirkistown. And look at that, beautifully driven. Economy of line, just what you were saying, John. Smoothness counts in this game.
Very much so. But it's a shame that Tuttle went out, because that was shaping up to be a really, really good dice. And I think that we could have seen maybe the best race of the day between these two competitors, just for one puncture.
And this man's pedigree is quite incredible. 1978 Sexton champion, 1979 Sexton champion, 1980 Sexton champion. He really has won it all, racing regularly here and at Mondello Park, just outside Dublin, and of course at Phoenix Park, where he won one race last weekend. We're now on the penultimate lap, and Frank adjusting himself, no doubt, to see a familiar sight, the sight of the checkered flag. We see the Nissan pulling off in the background. Obviously, it's a bit tired at this stage of the proceedings, but not so. The Escort Turbo Auto Rentals getting great exposure from a great drive. There's Gordon Kellett, I think. 61 it was. We saw pulling in there.
We've had a little bit of activity as well with Timothy Allen and the little Honda CRX, and the Mazda at the present. They've been thrashing around and changing places, and just coming into Colonial 1, Timothy Allen just took fourth place back again.
So down it comes into the hairpin, understeering a little bit, accelerating out now, up through the gearbox, front wheel drive, a lot of power going on to his last lap. Frank O'Rourke with absolutely nobody in sight. That's a back marker behind. And really, he's got this thing completely sewn up. Gordon Kellett, when he eventually arrives, is going to be in second place, and then still in third place after an absolutely noble drive will be Alan Keith. But we've one more lap to go, and in motor racing, anything can happen.
But Alan, the main race is taking place in 4th and 5th place, because now the little Honda's dropped back again to 5th place. The Mazda RX-7's up to 4th place. So these two on the last lap are having a big go, and Tim Allen's trying to dive down the inside.
So Frank O'Rourke coming through the Budweiser complex for the last time, up onto the back straight, right up through the gears, up into 5th, no doubt, with the turbo swinging away there. And there's our third place man, in fact, number 151, Alan Keith. Frank O'Rourke to take the checkered flag, a sight that he is well used to at Kirkistown. Congratulations to the Wexford man, yet again, here in County Down.
Yeah, it was a nice little result, I think, for me. He'd be quite pleased with that, in spite of the tough little competition.
Gordon Kellett coming through in second place. Just saw him take the checkered flag there. In third, it'll be Alan Keith. And then in 4th place, it's still fairly well undecided. In fact, it goes to the Mazda, and meanwhile, back down amongst the back markers, Wesley Patterson.
Yes. He's giving us a little bit of exhibition of what it could have been like if he had the best.
Well, indeed, I saw Wesley Patterson in a sprint here recently at Kirkistown, and that's the way he was all afternoon, absolutely sideways.
Well, I mean, it's great stuff to watch. It's not the best way of getting around a racetrack. I mean, it's more appropriate to a rally stage or a forest section, I would have thought, but good stuff anyway.
So as Frank O'Rourke comes down for yet another victory here at Kirkistown, Gordon Kellett in second place. Good day for Escort Turbos, indeed a good day for Fords, because the little Fiesta of Alan Keith through in third place, taking the checkered flag. There he goes, and a very happy man indeed. So we will leave you for a moment or two from Kirkistown here, back shortly.